Well, hello, good morning, and welcome to our latest Exeter Living Business Club, a timely reflection this time on the charities of Exeter. Today, we'll be discussing what this year has been like when the need for charities has never been greater, yet when the funding has never been more imperiled. Also, how businesses have engaged and how they might engage with our charities. We'll be speaking with the Exeter City Community Trust, Go Beyond, which is formerly known as CHICS, the Exeter Community Initiatives, Exeter City Council, and Farms for City Children. One thing I'd like to highlight before we start, to all our charities watching this and all supporters of charities, is that we offer a free page of advertising to any charity in every issue of Exeter Living, and the same in our magazines in Bath, Bristol and Cardiff. Please do talk to us. A couple of notices about things we've got coming up next year. Firstly, the Exeter Living Awards, we're delighted to say that they are back and they'll be held on the 22nd of July at the University of Exeter's Great Hall, as uber glam as ever, and frankly, yet more needed after this year than at any other time. It's certain to be a very special occasion with everyone together once more to celebrate the very best of Exeter. Nominations will open at early in the new year. There'll also be a launch event for the awards, virtual of course, which will include all of our sponsors who are in place by then and an explanation of what's happening, what the dates are, how to nominate, how to stand the best chance of winning and so on. Thanks to our initial roster of sponsors led by our platinum sponsor, the overall winner of winners on the night, Marsh Commercial, plus Regis, Triangle Networks, Warwick Event Services, Yellowtail Financial Planning, and of course, Exeter Living itself. Momentum is really building. Please do talk to us if you wish to come on board as part of your rebuilding of your activities in 2021. We all need help in generating the new business, which we all need in our companies after this year. Later in the year, we'll be running our inaugural Exeter Property Awards, held on the 19th of November at Sandy Park, when we all hope, expect, believe that the world will be a very different place. It's virtually a year away. It's set to be a unique celebration of this dynamic sector and bringing together all of the hundreds of businesses within the Exeter property value chain. It's headline sponsored by Close Brothers, and our first group of sponsors are Original Style, Vickery Holman, and Wilmot Dixon. As with the Exeter Living Awards, let's talk if this may appeal for you to reach the group of professional services particularly active within the property sector. Look out also in the year for our forthcoming business clubs and surgeries. Talk to us if you want to be involved, particularly in those surgeries, which are deep dive and analyses of a particular expertise which has value to other companies and other individuals, featuring one company's expertise and insights. And generally, many thanks indeed for your support for Exeter Living. It's genuinely appreciated, whether editorially or commercially. We do love celebrating this city, even in the tougher times, and we are determined to play our part, supporting the better year, which there will be ahead for all of us. This too shall pass. Right, on to business. Well, charity, I suppose. Please do send us your questions using the little Q&A button at the bottom. They can be anonymous if you wish, or named. And if you're named, perhaps also name your company as well. We'll give you a little shout out for that. Or if you wish, rather than just questions, just send some lovely thoughts. Our panelists will see them and it'll be good for them to realise the support that there is for Charities of Exeter out there. Please note also this webinar will be available afterwards on our Exeter Living YouTube channel and is being live tweeted right now by Exeter Living itself. Let's bring them forward. Let's start, if we may, with Adam Atkins, the Marketing and Engagement Manager of Exeter Community Initiatives. Adam.
Hi, Greg. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you indeed. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I thought I'd bring a little bit of festive spirit. I'm afraid you can't necessarily see all of Rudolph, but no, all good here.
Well done. I think between us, we're sort of green and red, which sort of vaguely is Christmas Eve. I'm going to ask you, and then I'll ask each of our panelists the same question, just to make sure that people know, who you are. So what does Exeter Community Initiatives do?
We started out as the Palace Gate project over 25 years ago. Since then, we have gone through several iterations. Now we have a range of projects across the city, across Devon as well, more widely, that support communities by tackling the effects of poverty, mental health issues, issues within families, homelessness, recovery from addiction. And we also support smaller voluntary and community sector organisations across Exeter and more widely across Devon as they develop or as they take their first steps.
And you, like all charities, have had a particularly challenging year, which we'll come on to as part of our group discussion in a moment. So thank you. Let's ask Stacey Hedge, the Business Development Manager of Exeter City Community Trust, to tell us exactly what you do and say good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Good. So tell us a little bit about your charity.
So we are Exeter City Community Trust. We are the charity partner of Exeter City Football Club. We are Exeter's leading health and wellbeing charity, and our health, education, wellbeing, physical activity programmes usually reach about 45,000 people in our community each year.
Well, that's a nice nutshell. Thank you very much. Let's have Lisa come forward for Farms for Children, Regional Corporate Fundraising Manager. Lisa.
Everyone. Hi, morning, Greg. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm Lisa. I work at Farms for City Children. Morning, nice jumper, Adam. Black. I'm wearing black. Morning. Sorry, I'm Lisa. I work at Farms for City Children. We welcome children who live in cities to come and spend days or week-long stays with us at one of our 3 farms down here in the southwest, where they can learn about where good and real food comes from and spend lots of lovely time in our gorgeous countryside.
And where are your 3 farms in the southwest?
We are headquartered in Exeter. We have 1 farm in Devon, 1 in Gloucestershire and 1 in Pembrokeshire in South Wales. And children come from all over England and Wales.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. So if you'll stay on camera, let's have Katherine Kelly, the Campaigns Manager and Comms Manager from Go Beyond, which is formerly Chicks.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, how are you doing?
Hi, yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
Well enough, indeed. Bit early to tell, in truth, but there we go. Tell us about Go Beyond, and perhaps a little bit in passing about the name change from Chicks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yep, I'm from Go Beyond. We are a children's charity providing free breaks to children from all across the UK who face a range of serious challenges in their home lives. So yes, formerly Chicks. Chicks stood for Country Holidays for Inner City Kids, which we moved away from in October this year, officially rebranded as Go Beyond. I'd say the main reason being, there are a few reasons, but the main reason being that we don't only provide holidays for inner city kids anymore. The range of children that we support is far more extensive than that. So we offer breaks to children who've been bereaved, abused, bullied, who are living in poverty, who might be young carers. So those who live in inner cities still, but also children from all areas across the UK who are in need of a break from their home lives. So hence the name change to Go Beyond. So yeah, that's us.
Good. Thank you. Let's have JP. Many of you will know JP Hedge from Exeter City Council. And JP, slightly different question for you. What's the council's role with charities, please?
Well, I can tell you the majority of staff at Exeter City Council are just in awe of our charities at the moment. The world has been turned on its head. One of the big things that we've had for the City Council is to try and get the money that we've received from government out the door as quickly as humanly possible, and that's for businesses that are watching, or also to charities. We've got some great partnerships with charities. One of the main things we've done is look after the community in Exeter as best we can. We've worked with lots of communities, including the City Trust, to try and do things like that. Things like everything from collecting prescriptions right through to delivering shopping.
Well, that's pretty much across the waterfront, as it were. I'd like to ask you all, of course, this has been a challenging year, and of course, we will come back to that. But I'd like to begin on this point. For all of that, what have been the joys for you this year with your charities? Don't all rush.
I can go.
Yeah, please.
If no one else wants to. We put out two appeals at different times in in the year. One was just after we went into lockdown, pre-summer, sort of May time, and the other was just recently with the Exeter City FC Supports Trust called Secret Santa, and the idea was, the first one was about giving resources to families who suddenly found themselves homeschooling, and the second is about just sort of trying to make the festive period a little bit more festive for those who might be having a slightly more challenging time than some of the rest of us. And if I'm honest, I put some stretch targets on the amount that we were asking for. I didn't expect to hit, and the public just gave of themselves so incredibly freely, and it was really humbling and overwhelming, and we were able to do far more than we thought we were going to be able to do. And that was all the funding, things that we'll come on to in due course aside, that was a real highlight.
And there must be, it's almost, I don't want to sort of overemphasize it, but precisely because it has been so difficult for so many charities, so many people, when there are those moments of sheer joy, it must be almost euphoric, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so important when all the staff are spread out all over the place, and then you get a nice piece of good news and all get together and talk about it. I completely agree with Adam. It's been incredible, the response from the public.
I would say I feel like we've almost had a closer relationship with our supporters than we've had for the last few years, just because the people who really believe in our cause have been vocal about it this year and so passionate about it. And I think, we're always so grateful to them, but it really does feel like we feel a lot closer connected with them than we might have done in other years. I suppose just because we've been so reliant on them as well, to kind of keep us going. And so, that's felt really special to us. I would say, on a different note, for us, as something that's been particularly joyful is that we had to stop all the breaks that we were running in March due to the national lockdown. We were able to restart them again in October in a different format for the young people that we support. So ordinarily the breaks that we provide are residential, they run from Monday to Friday. So we took that time from March to revisit the service that we were offering and look at how we could do it in a COVID secure way. And they've actually come back as day breaks for more local children. But honestly, the joy that we felt as an organisation, seeing those children get back to our centres and hearing the professionals who refer them to us saying that they hadn't seen the children smile so much in months. I think we all know, and we can all feel what those children who are already in vulnerable situations would have been going through over the last few months. So having that, and it was like a euphoria. We were all just so, overwhelmingly happy the week that they came back, because all our kind of fights and all the people who supported us over the last, and challenges we'd overcome over the last few months, were all just completely put to the back of our minds. And it was all about the kids, and that was just, I don't think we'll ever feel more grateful to see them back.
That's lovely. And to your earlier point about being, feeling in some ways slightly closer to your supporters and so on. We felt this. It's been one of the paradoxes of the pandemic. We're never further apart, and yet still. And in part, only in part, that's to do with such as Zoom. That if it is one good thing about the pandemic, it's happened at a time when technology at least enables some degree. But yeah, that euphoria was was touching and heartwarming to hear. How about you, Stacey? What have been your joys?
So I think I'm incredibly proud how the charity had adapted. Primarily, I mean, overnight, all of our income generation stopped, as most did. But with our work, with partnerships with different organisations in the city, we fundamentally changed what we did, and we actually were helping people that perhaps didn't even know who we were, delivering parcels of food, delivering medical supplies to those most vulnerable in our community. And sometimes those people just didn't have anybody to talk to, and just a human face at the door to say hello to the most isolated and lonely people in our community. It just warms the heart. Kind of you fear for those people kind of on their own, with no technology, no way of engaging, and we've been able to make a small difference in those people's lives. And like I say, they might not even know who we are as a charity, but that in a way doesn't matter. We've made a difference and we've helped.
Yeah. And do you feel perhaps from a personal point of view, for all of you, that this has whilst it's had all the challenges, and we will come on to them, some of them at least, not that you need validating, but that it's actually buttressed you up in terms of why you do what you do, is that greater sense of purpose, precisely because it has been so difficult. Is that something you felt at different times?
I think from a city-wide point of view, we can just see how important the charities are at the moment. And what's been utterly remarkable is their resolve in a situation where they're fighting for themselves and their livelihoods and had their own world. We had when we in the first wave back in March, we were redirecting everything that we did towards kind of community focus. And the Chiefs Foundation, to name one, put in a huge donation towards that work at a time where rugby had stopped, their income had stopped, and they were losing like £1 million a month. And we've seen that with all the organisations that are on this call at the moment, in terms of thinking about their own futures and how they just get through, let alone help the people who need it most. We've had over 400 people contacted through Exeter Community Wellbeing, and I think the impact that they're having now, when those calls are made, the importance of the work that they're doing throughout the city, it's never been more important. Not in my lifetime, for sure.
That must be true across the piece. It has never been more important. It is as big as that. What we're all going through is a deeper, weirder, worse, badder, however described, experience that any of us will ever have had in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
I would just echo that the business community and the sense of community in Exeter throughout all of this has been phenomenal. At times at the beginning, you kind of felt, especially as a business development manager, you kind of feel, I'm not going to pick up the phone. They're dealing with trying to work out how they even operate their business. And yet the community has rallied. Businesses have supported charities. Businesses have supported one another. We've always known that Exeter is a very special city, but I think actually since March, we've just proved its worth and how special it really is. And those connections and those people in Exeter have just risen. It's just been phenomenal.
That's lovely. In the worst of times, people show their best.
Yeah.
And we've had this with Exeter Living so many times. We've been sort of overjoyed to see the support, the cleverness, the thoughtfulness, decency, sheer decency of so many businesses, organisations, and individuals, which is heartwarming. Let's come on to Christmas. What does Christmas look like this year for you each, as you look out the next whatever it is, 10 days or so, with all the tier strictures and such like, but all the needs and so on. What will you be doing in this period through to the end of the year?
Sorry, I'll jump in. We're very similar to Katherine in that we've adapted our residential week-long breaks to welcome children for day visits. So I'm sure I'm very similar to Katherine in that it's very Christmas focused with the activities and looking after animals and the sorts of activities we're doing at the farm. So the farms we're really glad, same as Katherine, just to have children back enjoying themselves in the fresh air. And that's what we'll be doing and getting ready for Christmas and making sure all of our staff are okay. Big staff wellbeing piece through all of this. It's been an incredible year. So yeah, looking after our staff and build up to Christmas, but planning as much as we can for 2021. It's the hardest thing to do. It's almost an impossible task. So just coming up with a million ideas and how they would all work and how we would implement them, how we can change them, how we can adapt to how quickly everything is changing. So no idea is too silly or not worth exploring at the moment.
But as you say, in planning terms, it's incredibly difficult because we're all living this eternal present, and any real sense of futurity is tough to work.
Everyone knows what that feels like.
The others, how are your Christmases shaping up from a charity point of view?
We're incredibly busy, which is a good thing. So we ran our virtual Santa run, which usually you see kind of hundreds of Santas running through city centre at the beginning of December. We ran it virtually last week, which we actually saw over 1,500 people take part in. There were kind of various people running as families in their bubbles, and then various schools in their bubbles. But we're fortunate enough that we've been able to adapt our normal kind of children's holiday clubs throughout the holidays. So we've got 4 days running in both Exeter and Exmouth, 2 days next week, and then 2 days between Christmas and New Year. In various different kind of football or kind of activity based between 8 and 14 years. We're kind of working on Junior Grecians, which is the junior supporter club of the football club, which kind of falls under us as a charity. They've got a Christmas get together happening next Monday, so we're busy promoting that. We've got a football fun live coming this Saturday morning at 10 o'clock with a couple of our coaches, just trying to engage with some of the young people over Facebook. And we've also planning for next year with some of our running events. We've been very fortunate in that we've planned them in. Again, like Lisa, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the restrictions are going to look like. We've planned for a virtual half marathon in February just to kind of preempt anything, and then we hope to run physical events from March through to June with our annual marathon taking place in April this year along the quay.
And just a little plea for any event, any activity, of course, please do talk to us with Exeter Living editorially, because we can promote the activities in advance and so on. And good luck with any form of real life event, if it's March or whenever after that. So. Yeah,
we've also got a campaign running as well with a number of organisations. We're partnering with Exeter City Futures on a festive campaign to help those children and those families that don't have enough to eat or struggle at this time of year. We've got a campaign running at the moment. We're working in partnership with the Ted Rag Trust, Accredited Community Bookshop, the Premier League, Tesco, Co-op, Mecca Bingo, Rediscover Church, just trying to bring a little bit of joy to those families that have really struggled this year, which is new to us. We've never really done that before. So it's an incredibly busy time for us as a charity over the next couple of days, but we really kind of hope that we really do make a difference.
Yeah. Thank you. Adam, how's your Christmas shaping up?
One of the upsides of being locked down was that we all of us obviously adapted to being online, making a lot of our interactions online. And so the work that we do with families and with individuals through a few different projects won't stop. Whereas perhaps we might have had a couple of week lull because people just didn't want to go and do face-to-face visits, didn't want to have other people in their homes over the festive period. Now we can continue those. So it's almost a slight upside, if you like, to that work. We've got our Secret Santa appeal, which we've got to frantically send out something like 100 gifts. And I say we, I mean me and one other have got to go and send out something like 100 gifts. And we've identified the families that we're going to give those to. And actually, I think we're distributing a few through the trust as well, which is great. Great to be in partnership. In fact, we're in partnership with at least, well, certainly with the City Council and with the trust, and I'm sure we can talk more with Lisa and Katherine in the long run, and that's been a real upside for us. One of the things you were talking, you asked the question of Greg earlier, I think a little bit about, or at least someone alluded to how much the community's come together, and we've certainly noticed from businesses over the last few weeks. I've had just 2 unsolicited 4-figure donations out of nowhere with organisations we've never even attempted to contact. They're not. It really, I won't call them out by name and embarrass them, but that's been incredibly humbling. And the other side is that other charitable institutions and organisations across the city have been really keen to form partnerships now, so that we're not duplicating work. And I think we could find ourselves, although there are some real difficulties down the road, we could find ourselves being a more efficient sector across all of Exeter as a result of this. As hard as and as horrible as it is, it could be a pleasant. It could have a pleasant outcome in the long run, at least one pleasant outcome in the long run.
Well, you all strike me as extremely positive people. So, trying to find the positives wherever you can is admirable. JP, from the council's point of view, in the charity context, how is this Christmas shaping? Is it? It must be a time of extraordinary pressure on your reserves, your resources as a council, and supported very much by the charities. But how does it look to you?
I think it looks like I'll be looking after the kids if Stacey's got that on her this plate this Christmas. We've got So much to do. We play a game of watching the tiers, Greg. So we look at the tier that we're in, and then it tends to flip life on a bit of a dime depending on what we can do. Focusing on the city, we're trying to make sure that we recover, and Exeter is really well placed to recover. So from a charity perspective, the Wellbeing Exeter hotline will be open. We'll be dealing with those requests, everything from supermarket orders to helping with prescriptions. There are no less than 6 business grants available at the moment, and what happens that the government announces them, and then there's a scrabble to try and find the detail and process them. And our businesses out there, we know that they need that money yesterday. So everyone who is not, I've done the museum in the city, and doing a lot of this, we've taken staff from places like that to go man the wellbeing hotlines, or we're taking people from other resources to go man the stuff in the businesses to put it where it needs. So we're watching tomorrow to see what will happen within the tiering. We managed to open a load of our services as well this Christmas, so we've got quite a vibrant city centre. So we're trying to encourage people to go in and conduct their lives kind of as normal as we can, so that those businesses out there who want to help charities and want to support charities have got enough money in their tills to be able to do so.
Yeah, and I'd just like to remind people, if you want to ask a question, there's one we've had, which I'll come on to in a moment. Please do use that Q&A. But come back to you, JP. I'm sure this has to be caveated and conditional and personal and so on. But if I may, what's your take on the tiering for Exeter, the likely announcement tomorrow? Staying 2?
Oh, blimey. Okay, so I think we're probably going to be in the same tier. So Exeter's R rate has been brilliant. As you know, we had a huge outbreak at the university due to some unbelievable work by the University of Exeter, most of it unsighted. They contained it. They tested 6,000 students last week, and there were only 2 positive results amongst the students. It was quite remarkable. It's had no community spread. Exeter's R rate is well under 100, so it's more than about a third of the national average. But and the big but this time is that our RD&E is struggling. The staff sickness is really difficult. I know a lot of staff over there personally who are just absolutely shattered. Last time when this happened, everything stopped and they turned off the taps of the NHS, and there wasn't that much elective surgery, so all the other things going on that NHS deals with. This time they're dealing with over 100 COVID cases at the moment, and Nightingale's open as well with 20 plus cases in there. So if you compare the figures to back in March, they're dealing with double the amount of COVID cases than they did at any of the peak time. But we're not in that scenario. If you think where we were there, fighting for an hour's exercise and not venturing out of the house, we're in a really different place. But our colleagues on the front line of the NHS. So although the R rate is much lower, the impact on the NHS, and it will be that balance. It will be that decision behind closed doors where those people have that debate. So I wouldn't expect to go up to a 3, though, I have to say.
Yeah, the sort of national mood music, particularly from yesterday, it seems unlikely that many, if any, will go down a tier. Some may go up, but Exeter looks in much better shape than most for the reasons that you said.
Yeah, it's just trying to stop that third wave, Greg. I think that's it. Everyone wants to see their family over Christmas, everyone, but the 5-day kind of period where you might have the virus and just simply not know about it. It seems really difficult that we're going to have any kind of normal Christmas period and not come back into a third wave. So some really difficult personal decisions for people to make this Christmas time.
Yeah, and it looks as though government would prefer not to have to rescind Christmas, because that is a somewhat bad PR. But we're being prompted to take a personal view, which is basically do less than you had thought, I suppose, is where we are. Yeah. We'll step away from that, because that's international political concerns. Back to charities. Tell us, the charities here, tell us a little bit more about your teams and your volunteers, how they have been in this year, what support you've had, what surprises you've seen.
I'll kick off. So obviously in March, like I said, most of our kind of income generation stopped. So we were actually quite fortunate in being able to use the furlough scheme and furlough quite a few members of staff. But the members of staff that did stay on, and those of us that have kind of gradually come back, the transferable skills and the willingness to do what needs to be done to best serve the charity and the community has been extraordinary. In terms of just, our core team. I mean, we're a core team of 30 full-time, 70 part-time, and then hundreds of volunteers beyond that. We put out a call last week, particularly around kind of our festive appeal, asking for volunteers on a Sunday to come and help us pack those food parcels that are going out in the next couple of weeks. And we had a phenomenal response, to the point where actually they were finished a lot earlier than they thought they were going to yesterday. So obviously under COVID secure government guidelines, all PPE'd, all of that kind of thing, but just the resilience of people and the responsiveness and just the willingness to do what's needed, especially, I suppose you kind of take it for granted when you work in a charity that people all share the ideals of the charity going forward as staff, but at the same time they are staff, they are working and you are paying them, but actually you see the heart come through in the tough times, and I think we've seen that especially here and with our work within kind of the club as well, kind of across the two, especially kind of with football fans not being able to come into the football stadium, which, there's a lot of work that we do with them. So we do match day experiences for the children, mascots, none of that has been able to take place. And yet they've supported everything that we've done. So kind of from our staff and our volunteers down to kind of our community and they're not even customers, but, those people that engage with us normally. It's just the resilience and the positivity and the kindness, I think, has been amazing.
That's lovely. Katherine, resilience, kindness, positivity, your world?
Yeah, I definitely think I can think of lots of people who fall into all of those categories and more. Teams wise, we at the beginning of March, we furloughed the majority of our staff, went down to a core team of 7 people, who essentially were responsible for keeping the charity running until pretty much the end of the summer, when we started to unfurlough. And we actually had a look at a bit of a restructure of the team, and we've appointed some new members of our senior leadership team to come back and really lead on the restarting of our breaks under a COVID world, or within a COVID world. But also we've kind of taken a bit of time to look at what the future looks like for us. Obviously, we've rebranded this year. We've put together a new kind of business strategy with those new senior leadership team members. So it's been a real year of change in every sense of the word. But what has remained true and remained constant has been just the incredible determination of everybody involved with the organisation, and that's internal staff, external volunteers, internal volunteers, supporters. I just think what's kept everybody bound together is this united determination to get through this and to get the breaks back up and running again. And that has been such an incredible feeling to have from everybody, especially when you're picking up on that sense when all you're doing is seeing people virtually or emailing or people commenting on social posts and that sort of thing. So as a team, it's definitely brought everybody together. It's been really hard work and there's been a lot of change, but as I said, what's remained constant is that determination. But in terms of volunteers, it's a shame for us because ordinarily on our breaks we have up to 6 volunteers on each week-long break that we would run with the young people. And actually the volunteers themselves bring a lot to the young people. A lot of the children who come to us might not have had healthy kind of adult relationships in their lives and might not have been able to build those strong relationships. So to have our staff there, but also those volunteers who come from all sorts of different backgrounds, all sorts of different ages, and who, are the most amazing characters, for our young people not to be, so normally that's what we have, but the volunteers at the moment aren't able to come onto the breaks with us. We have some quite specific roles that we have volunteers in place for, but just because of keeping the kind of COVID security levels as best as they can be, we've not got the different adults coming in every week. And I do think that it's a shame for our breaks not to have them there because they add such a lot to them under ordinary circumstances, and we are missing them. And we know there's hundreds of volunteers who are desperate to get back spend that time with the young people. So hopefully in 2021, it's something we'll be able to bring back. But we are definitely missing them, and we know they're missing us. So hopefully over the next little while, we'll be able to get back to normal on that front. But yeah, definitely, if I had to take one thing away, it's determination, kindness, energy, just, you know, putting everything else to one side and doing what we need to get done to get the kids back and have a good time with them. So it's been lovely to see.
And that was lovely to hear. And I think all charities absolutely rely on, benefit from their volunteers. And if we give a sort of a virtual shout out to all the volunteers of all the charities. I wanted to ask Adam and Lisa, and I'm sure you would concur with those points, but perhaps a slightly more specific one. Have you had an issue where some of your volunteers are perhaps in older age brackets, 60s, 70s, 80s even, and that you've, on the one hand, they've been sort of reluctant to come forwards, or on the other, you've been reluctant to have them come forward because of the duty of care and so on? Has that been an issue?
Oh, absolutely. For us, we have on our 3 farms, we have 3 incredible kitchen gardens, which are there to feed the thousands of children that visit every year from our cities. And as Katherine said, residential breaks had stopped, so our gardens have been out of control and full of food. And our gorgeous team of volunteers, not all particularly elderly, but certainly in a vulnerable category, a lot of them, it's been horrible for them because they've been working with children all year to plant all those vegetables and herbs and fruit, and looking forward to harvesting them all and cooking with all the children, all the gorgeous food they've grown. And they're sat at home looking out their windows over at the garden, not able to head over. We've been amazing. It's been amazing being able to allow them back in bits. But some of the really gorgeous things, and with volunteers as well, because of all our incredible, and it is gorgeous produce, so well looked after and grown, and it's just delicious food. We've had some wonderful offers from courier companies and some lovely chaps down here in the southwest who've been loading their vans up with all this gorgeous produce and heading off to London and other cities and delivering this the veg and fruit to the schools that should have been with us, so they can eat the delicious things that they were looking forward to eating, which has been gorgeous. So that, I mean, that's no small undertaking in any sense, especially for businesses that might not, you know, be struggling themselves. So certainly that side of volunteering, things like that have just been incredible.
And thank you. And Adam, for you, your volunteers, and perhaps that specific point about they're not able to socialise in a way which would benefit them as well as they would contribute to the charity.
We've got two projects where volunteers are where we have quite a few volunteers. So our shop, Jelly, on 4th Street, which you'll probably know, sells children's clothes at nice low prices, and obviously they had to close in the first lockdown. They've just reopened now. Get along if you know anyone who needs something for Christmas. We had to shut down. We've got paid staff there and volunteers, and so there that was a little bit painful. But we don't have too many volunteers there, just a handful. We stayed in touch, and they'll be coming back slowly as we see business increase there at Jelly. The project where we've got more is Transitions, which where we have a lot of volunteer mentors who work with individuals across the city, and for them, they haven't missed a beat. The team at Transitions were unbelievably efficient at getting everything set up online, where our clients, their clients, didn't have the ability to get online. We tackled that by raising a little bit of money and getting them the hardware they needed to, and sometimes just the data that they needed in order to attend those meetings. And essentially, they haven't dropped off at all. They've kept going. Some of them have had to adapt to using Zoom when perhaps just general IT literacy was a bit of a step up anyway, and they really didn't miss a beat. So they, to a man and woman, they've absolutely gone above and beyond, and continued to support those individuals who otherwise some of them may well have found themselves very rapidly excluded and sort of on the fringes of society. So a slightly different take. We didn't have to furlough a lot of people. We didn't have to ask our volunteers to sort of take a step back. Most of them have been able to carry on.
Yeah, And talking of going above and beyond, that's also true of many companies in Exeter, some of whom you've name checked today. We've got an interesting question from an anonymous attendee. They say there are so many charities to support, it can be overwhelming and even distressing having to choose. What does business use as a steer when deciding to support a particular charity? If I may, perhaps don't give a straight pitch for your charity, but in terms of, if you imagine what the world looks like, there's a lot of very decent-minded people who want to do the right thing and so on. How do they choose? How would you advise them?
Sorry, can I jump in?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear if you asked anyone specifically. I think it's really important to find out who your staff want to support. Like I suppose a lot of companies are doing that now, surveying their staff or going on staff vote. Like a lot of businesses will have a charity of the year where they're supporting one charity a year, and that, is that. A lot of companies struggle with different employees if something personal has happened to them or something that they really care about, and saying, I really want you guys to get behind me with this. If companies have a structure in place to say, we do this, we have a vote here, we pick this one charity, or pick 3 charity events a year that you're going to support, but definitely listen to staff. I think it's key to getting corporate charity partnerships going, is having staff involved in something that can work for customers as well. I'd say that was a huge part of finding the right charity.
And potentially related to that, where there's a sort of vested interest almost, because someone is personally vested in a charitable area, it's more likely to follow through in terms of action. So that's one good steer. Thank you. Other thoughts for businesses watching this? How do they decide?
I've worked with, we work in partnership with quite a few different businesses throughout the city. But what kind of strikes me is when they look at their own client base and kind of their kind of strategies and their business objectives, and then looking at what fits with them as an organisation. So the kind of for example, we've got one partner that kind of likes to work kind of on kind of the elderly side. So we've supported kind of our elderly programs. They've looked at what we do and kind of gone, actually, that's a really nice fit for our business and our client base. We don't want to just give you and support you generically, but we'd really like to support that particular project that you do. And I find that in terms of when I'm kind of talking to businesses, the kind of looking at their structure, their kind of client base, their kind of the areas they work in, and finding that commonality really, that will help them feel better, will engage with their customers in a different type of way, rather than them just selling a service, and they can say, look, we're giving back to this area of the community in that way. I find that's quite a useful way sometimes when talking to potentially new businesses.
Good. Yeah, Katherine.
No, I was only going to say, don't be afraid to open up a conversation with a charity and assume that by opening it up, it means that they have to be your charity of choice. We, and I'll speak for everybody here, I'm sure, love speaking to people who are going to be potential supporters. I know that if that's what you're looking for and you're looking to support a charity, we're really open to having those conversations, but know that it's entirely up to you with who you choose to go with. But it might be that when you start having a conversation with someone about what you want to get from the relationship yourself and what you want them to gain from it, it'll open up different opportunities that you might not have considered would be right for you, or it will become clear perhaps who's the best fit for you as an organisation and for your staff. So I think, just not to be afraid to just have the conversation and then see what happens from there.
And of course, it's not just about money. Money is the great enabler. Many other elements that companies, individuals have.
Yeah, definitely.
Example of that, please.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
There you go.
No, I was only going to say, so we, for example, we have people who will give money to us, but then there's also lots of opportunities to volunteer at our sites. We have lots of kind of gift in kind type situations. So we've just worked with Devon and Cornwall Police, actually, who've ended up donating hundreds of Christmas presents to us that they've collected from all their staff that we're sending out to children who've been on a break with us this year. So it doesn't necessarily, as you say, need to be a monetary thing, but that's something that you might not realise until you start having that conversation with the organisation.
Yeah, I mean, across the piece, it's money, of course, matters, but time really matters. I suppose a closely related is an expertise. For example, we've seen elsewhere where digital companies, digital marketing companies have an expertise in marketing, helping promote your services and activities. I'm sure there's a role. I'm sure you partner with several yourselves. Leverage your business expertise, to use businessy language. I want to come on to one broader point about business and charities. I'm wondering how far the role of charities has changed for businesses over a period of time, perhaps accelerated now, a sort of zeitgeist shift from needing a, few years back, a CSR policy, almost as a box of bona fides, but now it's a vital element of why people either work for or choose to buy from companies. Are you experiencing that?
I'll jump in if that's right. Just from my perspective, what I've seen kind of citywide, I think there's been huge channel shift during COVID on this. I think the move away, I think rarely now will you find a company that is just doing it for a press release at the end of it or some kind of publicity. There seems to be in the just because the amount of work that I've seen businesses do, that they've just done because they want, it's their city, it's their charities, it's their people. Everyone will know someone that's related in some way or form with their staff, and also it's the right thing to do. And during the pandemic, so many businesses have done so much work with charities that are just completely unsighted. I wonder whether we're entering a bit of a kind of different era now, where businesses are investing in people that you've got around this table, and the relationships, the way that those charities work, and then the impact that they have, with maybe kind of the publicity bit at the end of it, maybe taking a bit of a downward turn. I don't know.
Yeah, there's in some cases there's almost a reluctance to draw attention to it. I also do a lot of work for charity, mate. Well, it's not for that reason. It's deeper, I guess. So if just to accelerate that point or extend that point, if and I think this sort of reflects what's been said. If you're now sort of more part of the conversation with businesses, there's a close relationship, at least with some. How do you see that developing? What might be the role of charities in the years to come? What started as at best a pet project for PR purposes or whatever for some companies is now utterly in the warp and the weft. Where might you be with businesses in a few years' time?
Well, I'll take this one. That's right, Greg. To start with, I was just looking back just before we started to call it some research. I recalled that CAF had done back in spring. They looked at public attitudes to giving, and it seems that we've seen a long-term trend to individuals and businesses wanting to support organisations that are doing good work in the communities that their offices are in, where their staff live, where they're or bordering where the majority of their work takes place. And I would, and this is a hunch because I haven't seen the research on this yet, but I would imagine that has taken a pretty rapid shift towards local communities. And I think it's certainly our view, and we're just in the process of building it's a very corporate thing, but we're in the process of building a kind of longer term corporate partnership strategy, which is going to be focused not on, will you give us £1,000 a month or anything like that, but actually all those other things that you are so good at that we aren't yet. Hands up, charities are not as efficient as they can be. All those things you do in business, can you share that with us? Can you share your networks with us? What can we give? If we can get you access to our clients and the organisations that we work with, how will that benefit you as a business? And we have to be pragmatic. I think that I take a slightly less cynical view of the CSR moment, if you like. I think it was well intentioned, however, kind of occasionally tokenistic it may have been. It probably is partly responsible for where we are now. And so I think true partnerships, as opposed to, hey, look, aren't we great? Look at the business saviours coming in and giving a few grand away. I think proper, deep-rooted, long-term partnerships is where we're going, and I think that will be better for us as charities and better for businesses as well.
Yeah, I was merely being provocative about.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah,
it's quite clear that for many companies there's a deep-seated, long-term, sincere belief, has been for decades, and some of the best companies in Exeter have absolutely exemplified that during these times. But so do we think that shift continues, that charities get ever more central? There's a phrase we've used with Exeter Living, that lockdown makes everything local, that we are that much more aware of our locale and as businesses, our responsibility to the area. Will that endure, or is that a moment in time where we're all the headlights, this awful experience?
I think it will endure. We have conversations at home a lot about people's mindsets shifting and how, I'm going to steal a phrase now, JP, the Great Reset, in that actually we've stopped what we were doing and running around and kind of focusing so much on things that actually our focus has fundamentally shifted as individuals personally, as individuals professionally as well. And I think it will endure, because I think people have seen the power of goodwill and positivity and charitable. And I've seen more and more companies kind of saying, well, we give volunteer days. That alone, giving up a day of business to go and help a local charity, and they want to help local because obviously it's where they work. They want to give a day back. So it's not just about kind of taking as charity of the year. I think there's going to be a lot around mental health and well-being going forward, and particularly staff well-being and mental health, and kind of focus on team days and all of that type of thing, team building, especially when we all get back into an office together. If we all get back into an office together, I think
whole other topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very, there's going to be huge challenges ahead for businesses, I think, but I think that the future, I think it looks quite positive coming out of this, because I think we've all appreciated the things in life that don't cost money. Actually, it's about the time we've had with one another and the people we've missed. I personally can say I've particularly missed hugs, and the power of a hug, and you can't put a price on that. And I think some of our older, more vulnerable people in our community, me particularly, I want to work with them a bit more. I want to go out and see those people, and it just. Yeah, I think it'll endure.
I think we have a responsibility as charities as well to help it to endure. I think, there is a real feeling and there's a real momentum at the moment among people and companies and all sorts of people from all across the UK wanting to give something back and to do something to help their communities. And I think it's up to us now, particularly I suppose on the business front, to say, oh, well, how can we help you with that? And even speaking from a practical point of view, if a lot of what you're doing now is virtual, how can we adapt and pivot and work with you to make sure that what we're doing is accessible to your staff and it's still motivating for them, even if we're having to do it virtually rather than all being together in a room? And how can we work with you to do that? And I think it's an ongoing conversation, and we all need to be, as charities, kind of flexible enough to help it to endure. And if we can all do that and work together, there's no reason why it shouldn't.
There's almost, and I wouldn't want to push it too much, there's almost a degree of self-interest at work for some businesses at least. How can we make Exeter better? Because we will benefit from that, whether it's financially or just generally the topography of the city, the mental health of the city, the poverty, or whatever the iteration might be. It's in all our interest to help make things better, I guess. And that I don't know if you've experienced any of that trend in thinking that people have got a bigger civic awareness of their role than previously. JP, perhaps it's more your territory.
I just think that what happens, like anything in the life, as soon as you take it away, you realise how much you value it. There's a lot of charities around here and in this wider conversation that nearly went under this year. It was that close, or at least having to reassess the work that they've done. We shut the RAM. The RAM's got a part that's a charity, and first time in 150 years we had to close it. We had to close our red coats, which run on a charity basis. The bit for me as we move forward and we build things and we kind of reopen again is to hold on, to try and hold on, not just restretch back out as we were and just kind of crack on like we're doing with the traffic. We're all back in. It's how do we hold on to those things, especially within this sector that filled so many voids and helped so many people, an absolute crucial time. It was the glue for the society in this time. When we come back and write the chapter on COVID, it will be the charity sector that kind of held everything together. It's how do we, when times are a little bit better, and they will get better, how do we build on that?
Yeah, the as much as anything else, the social glue, I guess, that charities provide. I want to, amidst all this positivity, I want to give a gloomier question, which is this, which I'm sure will be on the minds of at least some businesses. How do you respond to this point? You know, we know the need, we understand the benefit, we wish to help, but for this year, for this time ahead, we can only focus on protecting our business, and I'm afraid not on helping charities. So why should they support the charity sector per se, perhaps rather than your individual charities? Those businesses who are facing the troubles that we've talked about.
I think everyone's different, aren't they? Every single business is different. And like Adam was saying earlier, there's companies that, you know, we've never spoken to, who've sent donations in that we've never spoken to before, you know. So it's very different for every single business. Certainly when we were launching our urgent appeal earlier in the year, we were assessing businesses on an individual basis. Like, is it appropriate to send this? What are they going through? You know, what have they struggling with their staff? And then, you know, plenty of businesses who did do well, or who were doing okay, or who wanted to make sure that charities were going to survive and that the services that we were providing would be able to continue, were sending incredibly generous donations. I think every single business is so different. I'm sure there's the ones out there that might have done well but are still too scared to spend money and will shut the doors on charity. But like we've been saying, charity is an essential glue in society, and that is only going to serve, you know, if they have the money to support and choose not to. It's a staff wellbeing issue, it's a customer issue, it's people choosing that business, and businesses know that. So honestly, I just think it's a case-by-case basis, and everyone has to assess their own situation.
I just adding to that, I'd say recognize your value as a business that it's not just financial. Pick up the phone, speak to me, speak to the chief exec, and ask us. Look, we can say, look, we can't afford to give you £1,000 next year. We can't afford to give you 500 quid next year, but we do have this army of professionals behind us. I'm going to give them all a volunteer day next year. How would you use that? Let's work together over the next 3 months to work out how we can genuinely form a partnership. It doesn't have to be financial, and perhaps through doing that, you know, we'll unpick other areas where we can work together and that are mutually beneficial. And if they're not, then we can go. We've learned, and we can go in a different direction. And then also sort of slightly off topic, but I think just about within the realms of what we're discussing today is it isn't really the role of businesses to have to step in and get us through this. I think we've got to keep a little bit of upward pressure in the front of our minds on where the support for these services should be coming from. As much as we welcome that support from businesses, a little bit of advocacy as a unit, as a sector would be, in my humble opinion, would be a good thing to see.
So it's inwards from the businesses, but it's upward pressure, not necessarily to the council. Council, I guess, is in this respect conduit, but it's about national government's understanding of the need to support the charity sector, perhaps more than it has done hitherto. JP, is that how you'd see the world?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some there's some fantastic points there. It has just been quite a remarkable year for our charities, and as I said at the start, I'm just in awe of their abilities to weather this storm. And there's certainly the feeling from kind of the sector I'm in, and see to take those best things that we've learned this year and push through. It doesn't fall on the business sector, and the people in the business sector watching this now will know that they need to put their oxygen masks on first. They need to help themselves before they can help others. But if we're going to hold on to those best bits that we've talked about, it's going to take a joint effort from everyone together moving forward.
Yeah, I'm going to come to one last question. I asked at the beginning to give you this sort of nutshell of what you do. You've touched on this, but please, a nutshell point back to individuals watching this, whether live or subsequently on YouTube. What do you want from them right now and then into next year? What's the single thing you most want?
I go.
You go.
More than anything, I'm sure Katherine will absolutely second, I'm sure everyone will, the mental health crisis facing our children is certainly, I mean, there's so many issues coming out of this, but for us as Farm Specialty Children, we're so desperate to support these children. and get them out onto the farm, spending a day, having some fun, spending time with sorry, I don't want to, in a nutshell, you said.
In a nutshell, please.
In a nutshell, we're urgently looking for businesses who can fund days on the farms. It's as little as 50 quid to get their child to spend a day on the farm, £400 to spend an entire week with us. And it make just such a vast difference. And that's what we want to get children back out onto our farms next year. Similarly, though, completely second what Adam said, there's so much more than financial input. So if the business just doesn't have the money but want to do some staff wellbeing, want to get outside, definitely get in touch with us for sure.
Well, 50 quid is not a huge amount of money, even for those in tough times. So thank you. Adam?
I think I wouldn't. I think if you gave me an hour, I might be able to come up with a single thing. But
okay,
I think
I'll come back to you in a moment. Stacey, come on.
I would probably say, if you like what we do and you support what we do, forget about it from a business point of view. Share our message, help us reach more people. If you can't help us, somebody out there might be able to help us, and you sharing our message might help us reach somebody that we ordinarily, within our realms and our connections, might not be able to reach, and it might make all the difference. So share content, if you can raise money for us, that would be great. We've got charity places in marathons, that type of thing. But I think fundamentally, help us spread our message and help us help these people.
Help us spread our message, help us help these people. Catherine, your thoughts?
This also sounds a little bit festive, but I would say continue to believe in charities, continue to believe in the difference that we can make. Don't forget us, and just keep that faith. How can I put this? I think just remember the difference that we can make, and remember how much your support means to us, and believe that you can make that difference, not just to Go Beyond or the charities that are here on this call, but to charities who you believe in, who you feel passionately about. Don't forget them, and just do whatever you can to support.
Adam, a moment or two to think.
I've got it. I'd say just pick up the phone and have a chat with us. We're not hard sales organisations. We're not going to chase you into oblivion as you might be used to. If you're not sure if you can help, do a little bit of stalking. Check out the charity. Check out whoever it is. It's us. It's whoever it is, and just pick up the phone and have a chat with us and figure out if there can be alignment. And if so, then great. And if not, then there are so many different causes to help.
For the avoidance of doubt, and I think for Exeter Living, we cannot condone stalking. How that is defined, but we know exactly what you mean. JP, any last thoughts from you about the connection between businesses and charities, what they might be able to do?
No, just to say thank you. I know it's tough out there at the moment. It's tough for businesses and our charity groups, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We've got vaccines rolling out already. We've got big sites coming up. The vaccination program, we will never have seen the likes of this before, and it's going to rely on the voluntary sector. The amount of volunteers that we're looking at to roll out this program between now and Easter. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you're watching out there, just keep on doing what you're doing.
I was just about to close, but there's a last minute comment coming from Claire Kennedy, which I think is lovely and charming. Thank you to all the charities presenting here. You're doing brilliant work for our community and offer so much hope for the recovery in Exeter. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
On that note, on that cheerful note, and thank you, Claire. On that cheerful note, thank you to our speakers today: Stacey from Exeter City Community Trust, Katherine from Go Beyond, Adam for the Exeter Community Initiatives, JP for Exeter City Council, and Lisa for Farms for City Children. Thank you also for your time and questions today, and more generally for your support in this weirdest of years when our lives have been changed utterly. Good luck to you all in the coming months, and from our team at Exeter Living, please do have yourself a merry, merry Christmas. Somehow, who knows, somehow. With that, this has been a Media Clash production, and this has been a very special Exeter Living Business Club. Exeter together. Thank you.